I was like, I love Airbnb. I think that's wonderful. How do I make money from it? You guys gave me tangible ways to do that. And Steve and I started to be able to look at everything differently, like our basement, for example, when we were like, okay, we could finish this to be an Airbnb. We would have never thought of that before.
Welcome back to a special edition of Rock Your Money, Rock Your Life, featuring our Whole Life Millionaires. And today we have a couple that have gone through the program and have done incredibly well. Welcome the Cipranis, Lindsee and Steve.
Thanks, Rock. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here.
So one of the first things that we like to reminisce on is what was life like before M1? So who wants to have a crack at that?
You want me to do it?
Ladies first.
All right. So prior to M1, Steve was a teacher. I was a new entrepreneur, just going out on my own in real estate with a real estate team. And I had already had a consulting business that where I was spending all of my time and trading time for money. And so we were working really hard, not making a ton of money, living in our first little house, and had just had our first child / second child. And so life looked, I feel like, normal for most people, right, Rock? That was, he had the teacher salary. It increased regularly every year. And I was, doing what I could to supplement that. And so had the health insurance covered by him, but pretty normal standard life prior to M1.
And were you like working regular hours? Were you burning the candle at both ends? How were you taking care of your health and fitness?
Yeah, so that's a great question because no, I was burning the candle at both ends. So I was a full-time mommy as well, and we had young kids. So I was, trying to figure that piece out until I got them into daycare. Even once they were in daycare, right, I was still, dropping them off, picking them up, trying to fit everything that I could in for the workday into that. And then at night, I would literally sit there and, work until probably 1 o'clock in the morning, just pumping out as much as I could. And then I'd go to sleep, wake up again at, 6 o'clock in the morning and do the whole thing over. And so my health actually really suffered when you first met me. I was 50 some pounds heavier than I am right now and just not able to function properly. So not in a great place.
And how about you, Steve? Were you, crushing it, running marathons and stuff and lots of time off, or what were you doing, filling in the gaps? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think to take a page out of kind of what Robert Kiyosaki would say, I was just in the employee quadrant. We had a new family. That was definitely a priority for us, as it still is, but that was just keeping us really busy. And I was just, making wages, had a pension, had a lot of those things that people are supposed to be excited about. But, for me, eventually I hit this point later after meeting you and being involved in M1 where I just realized that there wasn't a lot of fulfillment there. And I was just really, I wasn't punching the clock necessarily because it was a salaried job that was a career, right? But I was definitely not having my financial bucket filled, or I was not really even having career growth that I wanted to see. There just weren't a lot of pathways for me. I loved being a teacher. It was a vocational calling for me in a lot of ways, but I wasn't experiencing the kind of growth that I was looking for.
So fast forward now a few years, I think, Lindsee, you were in the very first launch of the Women's Tribe. It started off as men only, and then we expanded, and you were the trailblazer. You were the first woman to become a millionaire. So what did you plug into, and what shifted for you, and where are you guys today?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I am also going to say my claim to fame in M1 is that I was also the top person in my little bracket most of the time. And I say that because that matters, because I actually did my homework every week. I listened to every single message. I was like dialed in to you and to everything that you were teaching. I don't think I missed any of the Rise with Rocks, I mean, there was so much content and so many things that were made available to me. And I took full advantage of that because I really wanted to learn. I was very hungry. And I always tell people that, I was in real estate. I've been selling real estate for, I don't know, years at that point, ran a real estate team. But I really didn't know how to invest in real estate, which I think is ridiculous.
Right.
Most of us are that way, right? We start building this business and we become these people that are, busy building businesses, and yet we're not building our own financial wealth. And to find deals and to locate them and understand what that was, I mean, I really truly didn't get it. And the mindset was such a big part of that too. I didn't have that mindset. And so, I mean, I always tell people that M1, I feel like, came in at the exact right time where it taught me how to be a leader. I mean, I got to learn from gurus that you brought in on video and the leadership series within there. There were so many amazing things, but I think on top of that, just the accountability that came in and that you guys put in place for us with like the pods and being able to have people like Steph Wu in there with me and Jay Perry and just a lot of these people that came into my life that we all started growing together and we were all moving in the same direction together. And we were all learning the same things together every single week. So it truly bonded us in a way that I mean, they're my best friends now. And so there's so many things that happened through that, but I think one of the biggest things for me is that I genuinely dialed in and it made a difference in my life because of that.
Yeah, you'll get out what you put in for sure, and It can be a little bit robust, but it's about 5 solid hours consistently a week, which is probably the challenge, the consistently part. You also released 50 pounds or so, and then you've gone on to acquire some real estate properties. How many doors do you guys have now? You have some Airbnbs and things, right?
Yep. How many do we have? 7?
Yeah, well, this is our 8th. It's funny too, looking back on some of this. When I first started this, again, we had the typical little, American home and family kind of life, and we're now sitting in a beach house that's bigger than our first home that we bought together, doing this interview with you. So it's kind of surreal. Another thing I wanted to comment just on I know that you talk about this in Power of Your Identity, Rock, in your book, but I think when I first joined, there was like a palpable pain of realizing I wasn't where I wanted to be. And there was a big difference between, kind of those dreams that I wanted and wishing and wanting some of these things that I thought maybe someday. And then I started realizing as I got more involved in personal development, there was a palpable pain reading Richest Man in Babylon, feeling like that guy that I could be this person, but I'm not, right? So a lot of that identity formation really, I think, took root for us these past few years. And it is weird to be reflective and then sit in this new identity in this new home. But it was a lot of soul searching, I think, through those years, a lot of risk taking to emerge and sort of shed some skin of an old identity into a new identity. But man, was that worth it. And it was worth every risk that we took.
So let me ask you a question. What we do in M1 is we help people really become more aware of passive income, what we call horizontal, dial in their health, not just take it for granted. You both have, upped your game there, lost weight, changed your morning routines, being role models as a couple in our community. And why is it so difficult for the person who's not exposed to this conversation to be hypnotized by, what's that? You're good people. You were doing good. You're plugged into good stuff, a teacher, an entrepreneur with a great real estate company. And yet your life was not nearly as abundant as it is today in so many ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, true.
So for people that are listening to this, they're thinking, my life is good, it's not bad. But you guys now are freaking badass entrepreneurs. You both have come into the community as coaches and inspired so many people and helped so many people. You applied yourself. And really now, if you look, like I was interviewing Jenna Sweeney a couple of days ago. She became a millionaire 6 months ago, something like that. She's now on up to 2 million. And the reason being is that once we start to hit this trajectory, we start to stack and pack the cash flowing assets that start to pop 2-3 years later, right? So talk to me a little bit about why you think so many people, I'm going to just call it, are asleep or are not making the shift.
You want to take that one?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'll comment too.
It's an interesting thing. I truly think that it's about the community. And I think it's about being in accountability with people. When you don't have that, it's so easy to be, sitting around doing nothing. But when you see other people taking it to the next level, it does allow you to realize that you can do that, right? It gives you permission almost. And I think, man, I'm going to blank on this, and both of you guys will know the name. Who was the first guy to run the
Roger Bannister.
Roger Bannister. So Rock, you always talk about that. I always forget his name. But Roger Bannister, you talk about the fact that, he was able to run that 4-minute mile, and then multiple people did that afterwards. That spoke to me so much, because I was like, if they can do it, there's no reason why I can't. And it gave me permission to take it to the next level. And it gave me, I think, the guts to try to do it. And that's the difference, right? But, you and I are both involved in other companies where there are lots of really amazing entrepreneurs around us. I mean, I think, being around them took me to the next level, but this was so different. M1 was so different because it was really people taking it to the next level in multiple different businesses in different areas and things that I never thought of, right? Like Airbnb. I mean, I was like, I love Airbnb. I think that's wonderful. How do I make money from it? You guys gave me tangible ways to do that. And Steve and I started to be able to look at everything differently. Like our basement, for example, when we were like, okay, we could finish this to be an Airbnb. We would have never thought of that before. So it's just being around people that are doing things differently and in different arenas that we, M1 it took us to the next level because of that.
That makes so much sense. And we'll get to Steve in a second, but just to put that together, it's almost like the constant conversation day in and day out of, hey, stay on track. Hey, somebody's doing this. Hey, look at that person. And then you're like, well, your brain starts to look, the RAS starts to look for opportunities and find them. And then you want to inspire somebody because you were inspired. And it just kind of is a snowball effect. Steve?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I think, to go back to some of your question of, why aren't more people doing this? I asked myself that same question. And I think some of it is just lack of awareness. Some of it's lack of resourcefulness on, I think, that individual part. But, at a certain point, I think you just really do have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, where am I going here? And are you fulfilling that vision? I mean, I had a vision of certain things in my life that I was measuring around. I think a lot of times culturally, we're looking for that certainty, which, funny to look for that when we're in very uncertain times, right? But I think, I started breaking it down in effective ways after I got into M1, and I started thinking more about what is the health of my career life? What is the health of my financial life? What is my actual health? And having those resources and tools was just so valuable. And I think when I really did that gut check and I was thinking about okay, what does my career life look like right now? And where is that going to be in 5 years? Once I realized there was little excitement of where I would be 5 years from now, I just asked myself, why am I doing this? And that allowed me, I think, to be a little bit more bold and take more risks because I saw where I was going. So I think having the resources to tap into your vision from M1 was incredibly important for me too. And then, at the end of the day, you do have to go for it. You can't sit on the sidelines. If you know the right thing to do, you still have to take the action. I think that's kind of a recipe, I think, for success among anything you do.
Did you guys make any mistakes along the way? Did you buy any properties that turned out to be lemons or anything like that?
I won't comment on that.
We've definitely made mistakes, but it's weird. I mean, say yes and figure it out. I truly, there are mistakes that we made that then ended up being amazing things, right? Like there are things that, we had to pay cash for 2 properties that we've ended up settling on, and we didn't want to pay cash, but it was cool because then we could put some money into it and spend a little bit more cash and then do the cash out refi, which ended up allowing us to go get more money to do it again. And those were like, they were things that were like, oh, this is going to be bad. That was stupid. And then it turned out to be the best thing. So it's really weird, but no, I mean, things have always worked out. Do you know what I mean?
I want to comment on that too, Rock, just because like, this is where I know you say this all the time, but it's all about, what's the positive here, or what's the good in this situation? I mean, there have been so many things. We replaced a sewer line on one of our rentals. It was $9,000. A lot of people, I think, would have looked at that and said, I'm not cut out for this. This sucks. I quit.